Hello, my name is Jason White, and I am coming to you from Columbus, Ohio, the home of the Ohio State Buckeyes, R.L. Stein, Wendy's Restaurants, and White Castle. Today, I am bringing you Hairy Shiznitz, another spin-off podcast of Sweet Shiznitz, and the podcast where we talk about your favorite 80s hair bands. We go over a particular album by a particular 80s hair band and discuss the band, the album, and specific things about the album. Today we will be talking to you about the 1987 album by the band Def Leppard. The album in question is Hysteria. Hysteria was the best-selling album by Def Leppard and one of the best-selling albums by any hair band in the 80s. It was produced by John Mutt Lange. Not sure exactly where that nickname came from. Not sure what type of side life he had. John Mutt Lange was also famous for producing such acts as AC/DC and Foreigner. And he also went on to marry Shania Twain in the country music world. Though he was more notable as a rock and roll producer, he obviously moved on to the world of country with Miss Shania Twain. And he was responsible for much of the songwriting on the Hysteria album, largely responsible for the sound. He had also produced the Pyromania album preceding this, and he contributed background vocals and even some of the instrumentals on this particular album. So, this album took 3.5 years to record. That was in a lot of part because shortly after the Pyromania album and tour, the band's drummer, Rick Allen, suffered a car accident. During this car accident, Rick Allen lost his arm, particularly his left arm. I don't know what you know about drumming, but losing a left arm is kind of a big deal. Using your arms in playing drums is pretty important. It was believed that Rick Allen would not play drums again. However, he was pretty determined. He completely retaught himself how to play using his feet for many of the extra drum parts and having a custom kit built for him so that he would be able to do that. So, Rick Allen obviously is the drummer for the band. Rick Savage, possibly the cousin of Randy the Macho Man Savage, was the bass player, background vocalist. The two guitarists for the band at this time were Phil Collen and Steve Clark. Steve Clark, this was his last album with the band. He passed away between this and their next album and was replaced by Vivian Campbell, who had been playing with Whitesnake up to this point in time, and their lead vocalist was Joe Elliott. Now, Phil Collen is not to be confused with Phil Collins, who was the drummer and eventually lead vocalist for Genesis, and then went on to have quite a successful vocal career solo on his own. So let's get into this album a little bit. This album had 7 singles, all of them charted, had quite a few successful singles. One of them hit number 1, one of them hit number 2. All of them landed in the top 20 of the top 40 charts. So we will start with one of the first singles from the album, the first song listed on the album. The song is called Women. Now, if you look into this particular song, one of the things that you will notice is it's kind of an odd song lyrically. The song is kind of a retelling of the story of Adam and Eve. It specifically focuses on the role of the creation of women. Starts out talking about in the beginning, God making the land and the water and the creatures, and then he made man. But man was born with passion, love, and hate, a restless spirit, and in need for a mate. But there was something that was missing, something that was lost. So he came with the answer, and here's what it cost. 1 part love, 1 part wild, 1 part lady, 1 part child. I give you women, women, lots of pretty women. Men, men, they can't live without them. And it goes on to talk about in the garden, lust beginning, the animal instinct, the wanton man. She fed him with a hunger and appetite, and filling with emotion, he took a bite. So it's a kind of an interesting song in that it is a very, very loose take on the Bible and the Genesis story of Adam and Eve. I don't believe I ever caught on to this growing up. And mostly I thought this was just a song about sexy women. So never really caught on to the biblical reference, which is particularly surprising given that I grew up in a very religious home, particularly with a lot of Bible learning, a lot of Bible memorization, knew the Bible relatively well. So, the next song on the particular album, which we will move on to, is the song Rocket. Rocket is, let's see here, Rocket is, let me pull this particular one up. Also, a little bit different. It's kind of a rock and roll homage. There are lots of references to other rock and roll songs, referring to Jack Flash, which is a reference to Jumping Jack Flash, Rocket Man, referring to Elton John, Sgt. Pepper and the Band, obviously a reference to the Beatles, Ziggy, a reference to Ziggy Stardust, which would be David Bowie, Benny and the Jets, another reference to Elton John. But then it goes on to say, Rocket, Rocket, yeah, satellite of love. Rocket baby, come on, I'll be your satellite of love. So it's a love song somehow thrown in the middle of this. And then we get into guitars, drums, load up, stun. We get to a later verse. It talks about Johnny B, referencing Johnny B. Good, Killer Queen, referencing Queen, Dizzy Lizzy, Major Tom, more rock and roll references. And then this is one of many songs with a voiceover towards the end where they voice over a rocket launch. And so the lyrics are kind of nonsense, but it makes for a fun, rocking song, even though the lyrics don't necessarily make sense. I think in the 80s, lyrics making sense was not nearly as important as we find it now. Now, having songs where lyrics actually mean something is kind of a big deal. So, in the 80s, it wasn't so much. Nobody paid nearly as much attention to what the song said. It was about songs being fun, and if they referenced love or sex or partying or having a good time, that was quite good enough. We will jump on to track number 3, which was also one of their singles. This song was Animal. Animal is really about, I guess, animal instincts and love. So we start with talking about A wild ride over stony ground, such a lust for life, the circus comes to town. We're the hungry ones on a lightning raid. Just like a river runs, like a fire needs flame, I burn for you. I gotta feel it in my blood. I don't need your touch, don't need your love. And I want and I need and I lust animal. And it goes on making more wolf references. And so the song's really pretty simple. It's I guess a little more sensible, in that it is just a song about animal instinct and love. Again, it is a nice, smooth sounding, rockin' song. Fun to listen to, a real clean sound. And then we will go ahead and make our way, as we're moving our way through this album, we will make our way to their first number one hit. Their first number one hit on this particular album is the love song Love Bites. And this song is a broken heart song it looks to be about an ex. Again, it starts out with a voiceover that's kind of hard to understand, where you hear a metallic sounding voice say, if you've got love in your sights, watch out, love bites, as a warning to those who may be considering love. I was told by some of my religious counterparts that if you played that backwards, it said, Jesus of Nazareth, go to hell. I don't think John Muttlang or Def Leppard had that much foresight or forethought into recording the song. When you listen to the song, though, he's talking about this girl and wondering if she thinks about him when she's with someone else, and or when she's not with someone else. And so then he goes on talking about how he doesn't want to get too close to her because it will drive him crazy. And so it's a real heartbreaking song, but then goes on to say that love is also what he needs. The next verse goes on to talk about when he is with her, that he's afraid she's somewhere else. Is he getting through to her, or does she please herself? When you wake up, will you walk out? It can't be love if you throw it about. So he doesn't trust her. He's afraid of being hurt. And there's really not much more beyond that, beyond repeating the chorus. And then at the very end, again, if you've got love in your sights, watch out, love bites. Yes, it does. It will be hell. So based on this song, just avoid love, because it will hurt you and it will cause you pain. I can't say as I agree with that. I've been happily married now for 23 years, been with my wife for 25 years. It's worked out pretty well. Can't say there haven't been any painful times, but their good times have definitely outweighed the bad. So my experience has outperformed that of the boys in Def Leppard. So as we move on to our next song, though it wasn't the biggest hit on this album, it was perhaps the song that has become the longest lasting hit on the album. This song is very recognizable. You still hear it played on the radio, on jukeboxes, at sporting events, all over the place today. You will recognize it just from the very beginning. The song is Pour Some Sugar on Me. This song was kind of a last-minute add-on to the album. It was written very quickly by the band, and I'm not sure that it really even makes sense. I don't know what it means to love you like a bomb, or to live like a lover with a radar phone. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Looking like a tramp, like a video vamp. Demolition Woman, can I be your man? Television lover, baby, go all night. A lot of this is just random phrases thrown together that sound really flashy. But then it gets to the chorus, which is basically talking about shaking up a bottle and breaking it, which is signifying a celebration. And then pour some sugar on me in the name of love is a pretty obvious reference to sex. So then the I'm hot, sticky, sweet from my head to my feet sounds messy. I imagine it is messy, and maybe not the most pleasant situation, but, I guess sex sometimes is messy. And we get into the second verse. Again, red light, yellow light, green light, go. Crazy little woman in a one-man show. Hopefully there's a man and a woman in the show anyways. I don't know what a mirror queen mannequin rhythm of love means. Sweet dream mannequin, loosen up. Squeeze a little, tease a little, please a little more. Easy operator coming knocking on my door. So I think they just kind of threw some things together. At least the last bridge here, you got the peaches, I got the cream, sweet to taste, saccharine, because I'm hot, hot. Say what, sticky sweet, from my head to my feet. Do you take sugar, 1 lump or 2? And then they just repeat, pour some sugar on me over and over again. Ultimately, this song was a wild party sex anthem, and for the most part, I think it had most of its staying power because as a young person, it was dirty without using specific dirty reference words. So you knew it was dirty, but you weren't specifically saying anything dirty. So that made it fun for us young folk to be able to say something dirty or sing something dirty without actually saying anything dirty. The next song on the album was perhaps, though I enjoyed it at the time, the worst written song on the album. Not sure how this made it onto a major album. It's really just like a dad bad pun, and don't completely get it. The song is called Armageddon It. Armageddon It is really just a reference to missaying the phrase I'm getting it. They in the chorus say, yeah, but are you getting it? And the response is Armageddon it. Oh, really getting it? Yes, Armageddon it. Which is clearly supposed to be a response saying I'm getting it. So it's a really, really bad pun that they made into a song lyric and then used that song lyric as a name. The song is, again, it's fun, it's clean, it has a nice beat, it has a nice hook to it. So that turned it into another hit song. And then, of course, the chorus, give me all of your lovin', every little bit. Give me all that you've got, every bit of it. Every bit of your lovin'. Come on, live a bit. Never want it to stop. So, the song, again, is just a standard rock and roll song about lovin' and with some really bad puns. And became their 6th hit song off of this album. So we will proceed to our 7th hit song off of this album, and the last hit song off of this album, which was the title song. And so you can probably guess what the name of the song was. It's actually not the next track on the album. It's actually track 10 if you're following along. The track was Hysteria. It is the second ballad on the album. And so it is kind of along the lines of Love Bites. It is got a little bit of hesitation about love, but it does go on a little more positive. He starts out with some trepidation because it seems too good to be true. But he's got to know tonight if she's alone tonight because he can't stop this feeling. He can't stop this fire. He gets hysteria. Oh, can't you feel it? Do you believe it? It's a magical mysteria. Some great rhyming there. It's hard to find words that rhyme with hysteria, I guess. And so this song, unlike the first ballad, is a little more hopeful. And so apparently by track 10, they start to believe in love a little bit more, as opposed to track 4, where they don't trust love. And so this was their last hit off of the album, but it is not by any means the last song on the album. So if we go back, we will find Def Leppard doing something that 80s hair bands didn't really do, in that they did write a anti-war protest song in the song Gods of War. This is the longest song on the album, and they did get some criticism for this particular song. It's also another song with some voiceovers in it. So it's got some talking. It's got a lot of instrumental parts in it. The chorus says, "We're fighting for the gods of war, but what the hell we fighting for? We're fighting with the gods of war, but I'm a rebel." And the bridge is, "I don't want to be there. I don't want to be anywhere. When we all fall down, when we walk into the silence, when we shadow the sun, when we surrender to violence, oh, then the damage is done. Put away that gun." And then we get to the end and they keep repeating the chorus, "Stop fighting for the gods of war. Yeah, what the hell we fighting for? We're fighting with the gods of war, heavy." So this is, like I said, this is quite a long song. It ends up being about 6.5 minutes long, and it is the deepest, heaviest song on the album. Actually, musically, it may be the best song on the album, but it is definitely not a song that I think they really thought was going to end up being a top radio hit. Definitely amongst hair bands, this was not the kind of song that was getting a lot of radio airplay during the 80s. We'll move on to track 8, which is Don't Shoot Shotgun. Don't Shoot Shotgun was another song that I was familiar with as a hair band fan. Similar to a lot of the other songs on the album, had this album not been on the charts for so long, it's very possible that this song would have ended up being released and charting as well. But they'd already spent a couple of years on the charts with this album, so I think the album had run its course at this point. This song is really, like I said, just another love song, but it's about, I guess, a love song in a sense. It's kind of about a bad girl, and being hot for this particular bad girl and going after her. So we will, as we're getting into the less popular songs on the album, we will go ahead and move on to the next track on the album, which was track 9, Run Riot. This song is actually not a love song. So if you look at the lyrics to the song, living the law is a bloody necessary bore. Everybody, you getting what you're looking for. Living by the rule is something you got to do. But does it matter if we break a rule or two? Get up, break out, don't be the odd one out. Living on the edge, I'm trying to keep a level head. This song may be channeling the edginess of bands like Guns N' Roses and Skid Row, who were just breaking onto the scene. You get into the bridge and chorus, get up, break out, don't be the odd one out. Come on, it's all right, we're running hot tonight. You better run, run riot. You gotta run, run riot. You know the time has come, run, run riot. I mean everyone, run, yeah, run riot. Oh, gotta riot, babe. So it still has the clean, polished sound of the rest of the album. Maybe a little more of an edge to it, but definitely seems to have more of an edge to it than the other songs on the album, which seem to be more just your standard love songs. Excitable. If we go on to the next track, not the next track on the album, as we already hit Hysteria, but the next track we haven't covered. And this, again, is a love song per se, maybe a bit more of a lust song. It starts out with just a voice saying, "Are you excitable?" with some grunts and groans. And then you get the stand up, say, "Yeah. Come on, get into the groove. You know, I get so excitable. I really get so excitable. I want to get you excitable. So come on, let's go." So the song's really just about someone exciting someone else. Not a whole lot lyrically to this song, just really about someone getting someone else excited. So we will move on to what is actually the last song on the album. The last song on the album in this particular case is Love and Affection. So, Love and Affection was not released as a single. It's kind of a slightly more up-tempo ballad. So if you get into this particular song, it is about maybe a situation where he's trying to convince her to give him a chance. If you get into like the bridge, "I don't need your understanding. Oh, babe, can't you understand me? Come try it and see." The chorus, "Don't give me love and affection or what you think it should be. Don't give me love the wrong reason. Yeah, it don't matter to me." So, it's just another song about love. So one thing that I found particularly unique about this album in terms of 80s hair bands, as we will just let this song play out as we go through the end of this particular episode, is that the song does not, or the album does not have a lot of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Wailing guitar solos. It does have some guitar solos, but they're not on the level of what you see on some other hair band albums. There are a lot of layered guitars, a lot of layered background vocals, really highly produced. The album, all the instruments are really put together cleanly. The vocals are very smooth. The other thing is, there's not really a song on this album that when it comes up, you just want to skip the song. There's not a song that is really a bad cut. If you're not really a big Def Leppard fan, Gods of War may be a tough one to sit through. Beyond that, really, about any song on this album could have ended up on the radio. It was said that when Mutt Lange went to make this album, they kind of modeled it after Michael Jackson's Thriller album, in that they really wanted to make an album in which every song could be a radio hit. Given that 7 of the 11 songs ended up being radio hits, I would say that they accomplished that. And this is an album that, given that it came out 32 years ago, and it is still an album that I love, that I could listen to anytime. And Def Leppard, for instance, just did a tour last summer with Journey, and they were selling out dates every night. They co-headlined, meaning that they took turns. One night Journey would open the show for Def Leppard, and the next night Def Leppard would open the show for Journey. And they did extremely well. The other thing, as opposed to some 80s hair bands that have gotten back together, Def Leppard is still the same band lineup. The band lineup that existed on this album, the only change to their current lineup is, of course, Steve Clark, who passed away, has been replaced by Vivian Campbell, who actually replaced them in the late 80s and has been with them ever since. So they have stuck together since then. I have seen some other bands like Journey and Boston and Foreigner and REO Speedwagon, and a lot of those bands have a large portion of their lineup that has been shuffled in and out over the years. Styx has had a few members change over the years. And so to see a band that has actually stuck together, you see bands like even Motley Crue, who has the original members now, but had some years where they kind of fell by the wayside. Some of their main band members, their vocalist and their drummer, both had stepped aside for a while. Poison basically ceased to exist for a number of years and then came back. Def Leppard just kept grinding it out from the 80s all the way through all the years where nobody was really listening to hair band, and just continued playing. And now that there has been a reemergence of interest in these bands and people wanting to go see them live again, they just continue to play. They've never really gone anywhere. So as such, this is an album that I would definitely, if you don't have it in your playlist, I definitely recommend adding it. It is available, obviously, through most of your networks. If you have Spotify, it is on Amazon, if you have Amazon Unlimited, or even if you just have Amazon Prime, you can get it through Amazon Prime Music, you can get it through Apple Music or Google Music. Obviously, if you're subscribed to any of those services, you can get it with your subscription, or you can purchase the album, whichever you prefer. But I definitely recommend adding it to your playlist and enjoying these songs because they're all really good jams. You will enjoy them over and over again. On a Shiznitz rating of 1 to 5 Shiznitz, of all of the 80s hair band albums, I'm going to give this one a 4.2 Shiznitz. Definitely not the best album of all the 80s hair band albums that were out, but it is definitely in the top tier of albums of 80s hair band albums, which is why it ended up at the top of our list of albums to review. So, until our next episode, I look forward to talking to you again, and we will talk to you soon. Tell your mom I said goodbye.